We started the show talking about how Michael Jordan's unique, kind of first into the market in so many different ways, and you don't feel like there'll ever be another Michael Jordan. He smartly put it that way. And in addition to there'll never be a Jordan with that type of recognition, given a pass on being apolitical, able to take a league to new heights. The NBA was already incredibly popular. People forget that the NFL was not nearly as popular on a weekly basis. This is before the advent of the Red Zone channel and before fantasy football, right? Fantasy football wasn't, and the two do in fact go hand in hand. Fantasy football is incredibly popular and has allowed the NFL to be really popular to people who aren't really NFL fans. There's a lot of issues with why the NBA isn't as popular in terms of the ratings. But I think what's interesting is, Beyer asked this question, well, had Jordan not retired, how many in a row would they have won? And, so many people are watching this documentary, and I kind of warned everybody of this. That, look, I hate to break it to you. Once I heard the director say that Michael Jordan was making suggestions and part of the editing process, and I saw that Jordan was promoting the doc, I was like, yeah, that feels like it's going to only champion Michael Jordan. It's going to be a Michael Jordan doc, and he's going to really, really like it, which is not bad. Like, there's not terrible stuff there to talk about. But once it becomes pro-Jordan, you don't really completely get a sense. And so one of the big things is like with Jerry Reinsdorf, and he's hiding behind the late Jerry Krause, and Jerry Krause, ended this dynasty. And like, look, the story hasn't been told during the doc. And we brought on guests that said, like, look, Phil Jackson was offered a 10-year contract before they had to call in Jerry Reinsdorf and sign a 1-year deal. He was offered a 10-year contract. He just didn't want to stay through a rebuild. Like, you can't go from coaching Jordan and Pippen to coaching my man Corey Carr, right? That doesn't, and Corey Benjamin, like that's too hard. And Eddie Curry, and Tyson Chandler, straight out of high school. Like that doesn't work for those guys. You can't go from coaching the absolute best to coaching an expansion team, which is what it became. And why would it become that? Because Jordan was done. He was done. This is Michael Jordan. And granted, this was at the end, towards the tail end of the first three-peat. He's sitting alone in his hotel room, and this is what he had to say.
This is not one of those lifestyles that you envy, where you're confined to this room and ready for getting out of this life. So you when you get to that point, I'm there. And with no reservations at all, I'm there.
No reservations at all. None. And then there were some reasons. Then he missed it. And he wasn't good at baseball. And he had tried to scratch that itch. And then he came back and he won 3 more and he was done. Don't believe me? Here's Bob Costas yesterday.
I can't think of anything that matches that. And a lot of people have said, and understandably, what the heck, Jerry Krause, what could you possibly be thinking? Your own ego and insecurities get the best of you. You're going to break up the team. Why didn't Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, overrule him? All of that is perfectly valid. But in my mind, it's better that it ended the way it did. Did you really want to see them ultimately lose at some point, and he walks off the court having lost in a final or an earlier playoff series?
Yeah, it's one of the points that I don't know if it's been made enough. I mean, look, Pippen wanted to get paid. There was a lockout the next year. Jordan had been paid. To the idea that Jordan was only leaving because of Phil Jackson, like Jordan had signed a 2-year big balloon payment deal where he's making $65 million combined over 2 years. Like, we knew full well that Jordan was probably done. Probably done. Matter of fact, the only thing that might have kept him coming back would have been losing, but he wouldn't allow them to lose, so it didn't matter, became a moot point. Phil was done. Yeah, was Phil done with Jerry Krause? Sure. They had reached an impasse. But part of it was the salary cap was likely to massively change, and the league was starting to go through an evolution. Sometimes it's just done. Like, we can blame Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf, but that doesn't mean that Michael Jordan is not blameless, or Scottie Pippen is not blameless, or Phil Jackson is not blameless. Or maybe none of them are truly the number one element or person to blame. You ever think about that? Maybe it was just time. It was just time. Time to move on. It's time for everybody to do something different. We all made a lot of money. We all won a lot of games. And if you end up on top with the greatest player of that generation, and maybe any generation, hitting the game-winning shot on the road in Utah, even better. Even better. Yes, Jerry Krause was bad with PR. Jerry Krause became the whipping boy for Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson. No one could he have done a better job of smoothing that thing over? Yes. Was he probably the henchman for Jerry Reinsdorf? Yes. If they could have squeezed out another championship out of the next 3 years, would you have sacrificed it? Probably. Probably. Especially considering how bad it was when they did start playing the next year with none of those guys. But, like, look, this is what happens. Look at the Patriots, man. Look at the Patriots thing. They lose last year at home to the Tennessee Titans. All right, they didn't lose to the Chiefs. They lost to the Titans. Ugh. In the first round, at home. At home. So they lose, and Brady's gone. Gronk comes out of retirement only to go somewhere else. They lost their director of college scouting to the Titans. They've lost, this is what happens. Everybody packs their bags and goes elsewhere. I mean, the San Antonio Spurs, they dragged that thing out. They won a championship, but then they kind of kept playing some, and it was like, didn't end great. They tried to. They went and signed LaMarcus Aldridge. Let's run this thing back one more time. It didn't work. Kawhi Leonard was like, I'm out. And it still hasn't technically ended, even though everybody knows it's been over for a long time. It's been over for a long time. We all act like Jordan could have come back and won another title, but we've never asked ourselves, hey, what if he couldn't have? What if it was time? What if it was just over? And he ended it at just the right moment, which is what it kind of feels like. James Jones will join us upcoming at 25 after the hour. I mean, look, think about how the Celtics run ended. Right? Celtics were an all-time great team. Larry Bird had back problems. Reggie Lewis died. Len Bias died before he ever played a game. Some of it is bad luck, but some of it is just age. The Celtics with Pierce and Garnett. Ray Allen left because he knew they were over the hill. They were over the hill. They were overmatched. Ray Allen leaves, and of course now there's not all the feels for Ray Allen in comparison to the other two of the big three. People don't remember that Magic Johnson, when it ended there. Why did it end? When they lost to the Pistons, Byron Scott got hurt, Magic got hurt. And then they lose to the Lakers. They lose to the Bulls in 91. Kareem had retired. He had gotten old. Magic wasn't nearly the same. The roster had changed some, and Vlade wasn't ready for that. That wasn't a pretty end, and obviously it ended prematurely for Magic because of HIV. But that wasn't a pretty end to that incredible Showtime run, was it? Even LeBron, when he's in Miami. Did we forget that he lost that last year in Miami? They beat the Spurs on the miracle in Game 6, and then coming back and LeBron in Game 7, and then they just kind of fell apart the next year. The Warriors. As much as the Warriors still had plenty of life left in them, if they could have won back-to-back and not played last year and not had all of that negativity and then losing the way they lost where everybody got hurt, would you take it? You probably would. That's what the Bulls were. only they'd won 6 titles, not 2. Or 3, actually, out of 4.